Hi everyone, Shannon Carpenter here, Program Director for Heart of Homeschooling. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about how to evaluate students' work and also a little bit more about assessments. So I'm going to talk about two things today. First, how to evaluate daily work, weekly work, monthly work, and yearly work. And then also I want to talk about state standardized testing. So let's get started. First, I want to talk about your daily work. So depending on what curriculum or daily assignments you've chosen to do for your student, you want to take a look at how you are assessing it. If your curriculum has tests and assessments already built in, that's great. That should be enough for assessing progress and mastery of standards. But if your curriculum doesn't, like let's say for instance, you're using Story of the World, but you're not using the assessments that are built in with that curriculum, or let's say you are using a Waldorf approach and there's no form of assessing work. You want to do what I call a portfolio assessment. And so basically, let's start with what exactly is a portfolio. I did talk a little bit about portfolios in the past, but the purpose of a portfolio is to collect student work that's been selected and organized to show student learning progress. It can be samples of students' best work. The student can sometimes select their best work, or the parent, either one. A portfolio can be used in addition to any other assessments you're using, so it doesn't have to be the only thing you're using for assessments. And some schools even will provide a portfolio assessment that they give you, and they tell you what you need to turn into them. But either way, a portfolio can be created in the home. And in my last video, I showed you how to have part of your homeschool binder be your portfolio. Here's my binder, and tab 5 was portfolio samples. So the purpose is to give students the opportunity to reflect on their growth over a period of time and to use it as a basis for assigning grades based on their effort, to use the basis for communication between parent, teacher, and student, and also to show placement in the next grade. So the portfolio should have lots and lots of samples over a large period of time. Your teacher, if you're enrolled in a charter school, is going to want to see samples each learning period, approximately every 20 school days. The evaluation should be done by the teacher, the peer, the student themselves, and also by the parent. Reflections should occur over that period of time. You should let the child or the student talk about what they're learning, where they're struggling, what they're getting stuck on. So then the teacher and the parent can reassess and determine whether or not there needs to be some reteaching happening. So a finished portfolio will have samples of independent work, the best independent work of the student. They'll have evaluations by the teacher and the student and the parent. The samples should be organized according to some type of system, like all of the language arts English samples should be together, and so on. And they're usually providing a summative evaluation. So how do you evaluate what is going into the portfolio? How do you actually evaluate the student work? Well, the best way to do that is by using a rubric. Maybe you've heard of a rubric, maybe you haven't, but I'm going to go ahead and show you some samples of some rubrics and also how to create one. So the very first step in creating a rubric, and by the way, I should say, you always want to show the student what is accepted and what is acceptable. So you want to sit down as soon as your rubric is created for your assignments or for the portfolio in general and go over the acceptable and the unacceptable parts of the rubric so they know how the point system is going to work, because that's how rubrics work. So the first thing you want to do is to assign points to what is acceptable and not acceptable. You want to first determine if you're going to be scoring it based on the overall quality of the work and understanding of a concept, or are you going to create a new rubric for each subject area? So you want to determine that first. Which path are you taking? If you're taking the first path, an overall quality and understanding, it's pretty easy to go ahead and and develop a rubric that you can just use for the whole year. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see an example of a super simple rubric you could use or start with if you want to just go ahead and get started. So here we see a sample of a rubric with just a 4, 3, 2, and 1 point system. If the student wants to get a 4, which would be equivalent to an A+, that would be exemplary, and it would mean that the student has completed all of the assignments and has comprehension of all of the material that the student participated in or completed in any activity, and all assignments were done in a timely manner and showed perfect performance. If they are going for good quality, which would be 3 points, the student has then proficient comprehension of the material and actively participated in all activities and completed assignments in a timely manner. So the only difference you see is complete comprehension versus proficient comprehension. A 2 point or satisfactory score would mean that the student has an average comprehension of the material and the student mostly participated in activities. The student completed assignments with help. And finally, 1 point, not quite there. The student does not comprehend the material and students did not participate in activities. Students did not complete assignments. So you can see that is a very simple rubric. Now I want to show you a more complex rubric based on an essay. This particular example is a rubric that was created for grading an essay. And so you can see this simple informal essay rubric just has 2 rows instead of the 1 row we saw previously. So we're looking at quality of writing and grammar usage and mechanics. In order to score a 4, the student would have to have written a piece of work in an extraordinary style and voice, very informative and well organized. In order to receive a 4 in grammar and usage, they would have had to have virtually no spelling, punctuation, or grammatical errors. And then you can go ahead and read the rest. They go back down to a 3, a 2, and a 1. This rubric here is an example of a formal essay rubric. Again, a little bit different than the other one. No points here, there's just an A, B, C, or D system. But then they've divided it up into 6 different areas: ideas, organization, understanding, word choice, sentence structure, and mechanics. So really, it's up to you. I highly recommend, if you have a 4th grade, 5th grade student on up, that you develop the rubric with them so that you're clear on what the expectations are for all concerned. The second thing I wanted to talk to you about was state testing. I have a cute little graphic that I created and I want to share it with you. This graphic is a great flyer that you can print off and share with your student. And it's just helping them to understand how to get ready for testing day. Most charter schools require state standardized testing if you're enrolled in a charter school. If you're not enrolled in a charter school and you don't need to take the state standardized testing, but you need to take some other form of testing just to report to the state or just to assess how your student is doing in their grade level, this is a great little flyer to help get ready for that test day, because there are some students that experience a high level of anxiety before testing, and this will help everybody that's preparing to be prepared. Always best to be prepared. So number 1, begin practice tests 2 to 3 months before, at least 2 times a week. Most state testing has some form of online practice test so that students can go online and actually practice with release test questions. So I recommend starting that 2 to 3 months before the actual test date so they can get experience with that. You want to visit the site if you're allowed to before the test day so that the student can, get a feel for where everything is located, if they're going to be upstairs or downstairs, where the bathroom is, if there is a drinking fountain, anything that they might need for test day. Visit the site if you can. You also want to meet with the test proctor if possible if you don't know them. If you know them, no need to meet with them. But if you don't know the test proctor, it might be a good idea to set up a quick meeting so that your student can meet them and feel comfortable with this person they may not know. Check the directions on your maps if you don't know where the test site is, just to make sure you know how long it's going to take to get there. You want to lay out clothes, a jacket in case it's cold in the room, and shoes the day before. Go to bed early and wake up early on test day. Have a healthy breakfast, pack a lunch, snacks, water, and be sure to bring a book to read, because sometimes students have a break and they just have to sit there and they're not allowed to have paper or pencil or anything. So have them bring a book that they're currently reading and enjoy to kind of take their mind off of the day. Bring allowable tools such as calculators or anything else that the proctor says that is allowed. Have the child go to the bathroom before the test. Only talk about fun things on the way in the car to the site to minimize anxiety and worry, and make sure you smile. Then finally, reassure your child that you're staying near the site so that when they finish or if they need you for any reason, the proctor can call you and you can be close by. I have had experiences where I was the proctor and the parent was unreachable, or they were an hour away because they thought, oh, I have the whole day, I'll go run errands. And it's really not a good idea to leave, especially if your child has a high amount of anxiety. So make sure you stay in the area so that you can get called on and run back real quick if you need to. Okay, that is it for this video. I'm so happy that you joined us. I hope that you learned a lot about portfolios and rubrics and how to prepare for testing. Hope you have a great day. Thanks so much for joining.